Of Tuesday, June 18th, 3 p.m. to order. If you will join me in standing and saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If you will continue standing as we have Pastor Brett Myers from First Baptist Church say invocation for us.
Thank you. Let's pray. God, as we come to our time of invocation, we recognize that the very meaning of that word is that we invoke you. We invoke your spirit to give wisdom and discernment. So God, we ask that. God, we thank you for leadership. God, we thank you for the men and women that you've called to and appointed to lead us, to make wise decisions. God, we thank you so much for the time that they spend day after day in talking through and making decisions for the best of our community. God, we thank you for the place that you have so blessed us with to call home. God, after 6 years being here, God, I'm still amazed at the beauty that you have created around us and the privilege and blessing that it is to be able to live here. God, I pray that everything that we say and do in this meeting would glorify you, and that you would give that discernment. God, that you would give wisdom to our leadership, and as we're commanded to do in Scripture, God, we pray for them. And God, we pray that you would give a supernatural ability to make wise decisions to them in a unified manner. God, thank you for all that you're doing here. And God, I pray that you would help us all to come alongside each other to serve those in this community and God, to love each other well. It's in Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor. Mr. Orlando, do we have any changes to today's agenda?
No, sir.
Okay. We do have regular meeting minutes from June 4th. Do we have a motion?
Do you want me to move that we adopt the agenda as submitted?
Yes.
I so
Don't last
do.
night's time.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. So moved, 7-0.
I move that we adopt the minutes of the regular meeting of June 4th as submitted. Second.
We have a first and second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. So moved, 7-0. Thank you.
Should I move that we listen to the town manager?
Report of the town manager, Mr. Orlando.
Thank you. I did miss Mr. Ames' motion, but I'll just jump right in. I only have one announcement tonight under the report. I would like to reintroduce Derek Coxum, who started June 10th as our facilities director. Derek just put his ice cream sundae down and he's giving it to us. Derek is responsible for the overall management of town properties, all our facilities, our parks, beaches, public services, special events, and a whole bunch of other things on here. More than 25 years of experience, and a lot of us know Derek, and I will say to you, welcome home, welcome back. We're happy to have you here. There's a lot of our work is in our new facilities department, our operations, our beach parks, our different facilities, our fire stations. And Derek comes here as the very first facilities director in that regard. I know that facilities was within the engineering department for a long time, but Derek as a new department head, as a leader, welcome, sir. Derek's a native of St. Helena Island, graduated from TCL with an associate degree in engineering. And has many achievements in the Low Country region. So welcome back and thank you. Look forward to working with you.
Welcome.
Does facilities include the air conditioner in this room?
It does starting today. Yeah. Yeah, I will say it was cold last night. We kind of joke around. We had the HVAC shut off, turned off, fan off, and it continued to pump. I received emails today concerned about that. The room was cold, but we shut it down, we turned it off, and it just kept pumping. Derek did have HVAC team here this morning to look at it, so I apologize for that sincerely.
So no, we were not trying to freeze anyone out so they would leave early. And of course, we know if that was the case, it didn't work. So, but anyhow, we'll go on from there. That does bring me to a general report that I'd like just to bring up real quick. First of all, for those of you who were here last night, thank you for coming in and spending your night with us. There was a lot of information that was put out, a lot of emotion that was put out. We have since changed our meeting for this Thursday from a vote meeting to a discussion meeting. So it is going to be another workshop. It'll be in this format because of the number of people that we had here the other day, and there were so many people standing behind us and around us. We've just got to make certain that we do it in a better fashion. But Thursday at 3 o'clock, it'll be another workshop, and we're going to discuss the plan, how we got to where we are, and a lot of different things, because we haven't had that discussion in a long time, and it's time that we put that on the table. So look for that on Thursday, 3 o'clock. Now, moving on from there, general, yes.
Sorry, general reports from town council. Can I make a quick?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Happy Juneteenth tomorrow. And thanks to the Mitchellville Board of Directors for such a wonderful celebration at Mitchellville on Saturday. And thanks especially for allowing me to come and play my djembe in the drum circle. It was lots of fun. And it's a great event. And if you weren't able to be there this year, I encourage you to come next year. I'm sure it'll be just as good. Thank you. Happy Juneteenth.
Any other general reports? Mr. Raines.
Thank you, Mayor. I received the following email from Amanda Williams-Onan. She was nudging me to read this email so the public would know. It says, I posted this on my Facebook and thought the town might be able to recognize him, she'll explain who him is, at a town council meeting. His family has lived for years in Sea Pines, and they own Gilman Flooring. All 4 of their kids went to Hilton Head Public Schools and are just great people. I think this is worth celebrating. I'm hoping you can help bring attention to this with the council. Thanks. And she says in quotes, turn on your TV Friday, June 21st at 8 p.m. to watch the Olympic trials on NBC. Our very own local kid, Sam Gilman, is running the 1,500 meter as he races to be a member of the United States Olympic team in France. This puts Hilton Head on the map our entire town needs to get behind him. He was an NCAA Athlete of the Year for the Mountain West his senior year at the United States Air Force Academy. He just ran the 1,500 meters in 3 minutes and 36 seconds to qualify for the Olympic trials. If this doesn't make you proud, I don't know what can. Run, Sam. I'm going to be cheering loudly for you. Our entire town needs to cheer. This needs to make the headlines. Thank you very much.
Good morning. It gives me goosebumps.
Yeah, that's me too.
David, what time was that on Friday?
8.
8?
8 o'clock. Any other general reports? All right. Low Country Area Transportation Study, Mr. Stanford.
Yes, sir. The board met on June the 7th. I want to express appreciation to our Jim Iwanicki, who is our transportation supervisor. He sat in for me. I was unable to attend. Gave me lengthy notes. The committee reviewed the countywide transportation impact analysis ordinance in an effort to move it forward. The committee approved support for the South Carolina DOT East Coast Greenway Active Transportation Infrastructure Investment. The most activity, though, that occurred at this meeting was there was a discussion of Section 5B of the Hilton Head, the Bluffton Parkway. You'll recall that that is a segment that would tie the 2 legs of the dog leg together. There was a large number of citizens who came in opposed to that because their properties would be impacted. Also, SCDOT gave a report on where the improvements to Interstate 95 will occur. Phase 1 will start at the state line and continue on to milepost 10. That includes 14 bridges and 2 interchanges. So it's going to take some time to build all of that. That's my report, sir.
All right, thank you. Ms. Becker, Low Country Council of Governments.
I do not have a report, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Ames, Beaufort County Airports.
No report?
Mr. Stanford, Soloco.
Yes, sir. Soloco met on May 28th. The main presentation was given by Joel Taylor, president of the local hospital. He gave a report on the impacts of the change in ownership in the hospital, was what was going to be happening there, and particularly emphasized the large investment that the new owner is going to be making in the hospital and the hospital facilities. In addition, Chairman Passament gave a presentation on the sales tax referendum proposal that's coming forward. That's my report, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Brown, Allen Recreation Association.
No report, sir.
Ms. Becker, Community Services and Public Safety Committee.
Yes, we met twice and interviewed applicants for a variety of different positions on commissions and boards, committees that were open. And tonight in executive session, we'll have a discussion about our recommendation to the full council.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Becker. Mr. Ames, Public Planning Committee.
No report?
And Mr. Brown, Finance and Administrative.
No report, sir.
Next, we'll move on to appearance by public citizens. I would like to remind our citizens that Section 2-5-70 of the town's code limits each person to 3 minutes when addressing town council. At the end of the 3 minutes, you are asked to conclude your comments. Please maintain a decorum suitable for the meeting and refrain from using any profane, abusive, or obscene language. If you have any material you would like to give to town council, please give to the town clerk after you are finished speaking. Kimberly, do we have anyone signed up today?
Yes. John Casey.
Mayor, Council, John Casey, Indigo Run. I'll be brief. I'm very, very pleased that Thursday's meeting has been turned into a workshop. I welcome the opportunity not only to review the history of this project, but hopefully have constructive discussions about where it is going to go in the future. Yesterday's lengthy meeting demonstrated that there were conflicting data, that there were new documents, that there were disparate opinions, and I think they all need to be taken into account. I think it's also worthwhile to highlight the fact that the environmental assessment date is really a date on the calendar. You may agree or disagree, but the county has been pulling this kind of stunt from the very beginning, trying to slip language in that gives the town has implied consent, saying that funding is going to be lost, the sky is falling, the boy cried wolf, whatever metaphor you like, just to get this pesky municipal consent out of the way. And so I hope that the Independent Advisory Committee can complete its work. I hope that the consultant can complete their report, and that a recommendation up or down will come in a timely but complete manner to the council. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Casey.
John Davidson.
Good afternoon, John Davidson. I live in Shipyard. I'm an urban economist, and unfortunately I've been off the island for about 18 months because my wife has had to have extensive health care in Minnesota. My reason for coming today is to tie together two propositions that I don't believe the council actually has begun to realize how they coalesce and how they then impact the discussion of the bridge and transportation. You kindly just mentioned the most important thing that is happening on Hilton Head right now is the investment in the hospitals. If we stop and look at, and I discuss it extensively from the background of urban economics in the 3 pages that I have for you, the most important thing to any community now are healthcare knowledge workers. If the hospital is lost, Hilton Head is gone. That's the simplest proposition that I can assert for you. Accordingly, every decision that this city council makes has to be first filtered through how do we impact our healthcare providers, which is over 20% of the economy, and healthcare workers and so forth. And it directly ties in, I also happen to be a lawyer, and I mentioned the legal standard of care, which I have watched every video of every meeting about the bridge and most everything in the council, which is never discussed. And that is the primary obligation, and I'll quote the South Carolina Supreme Court in 2021. The primary obligation of this council is the enhancement of property values. It is not aesthetics. It is not worrying about disputes about how someone was treated in the past. The legal test is not It's grade D and it passes, or it costs too much. The legal test is whether or not the steps you take enhance property values. Now, accordingly, what you all should do, rather than have that meeting Thursday, is hire a good urban economic law firm and find out, truly, working with your healthcare people, which is about 20% of your really skilled workers, what is it going to take to assure that tomorrow we have better healthcare on Hilton Head than we have today? Because if you do not meet that test, anything else you do will ultimately result in this community being held out. And the reason for it, and that's the last thing that I want to say, being an urban economist here, is right out there is a center of gravity, the Death Star, Savannah. And if healthcare workers and hospitals can get better, higher paying patients and better payer mix, they are going to move there, and instead of being a 15 or 10-minute trip from the south end of the island to the north end of the island, it is going to be an hour and a half to Savannah.
Mr. Davidson, thank you.
Thank you all. Appreciate your attention. I would appreciate your distributing my information.
Skip
Just so
Oakland.
you know, the reason I didn't pass them down is our policy is to hand any handouts to our town clerk.
Tamara, I'm gonna give that to you. There's
Say-
only two people I trust and that I have faith in, that's Patsy and Tamara, so I'm not gonna hand it to anybody else. Skip Hoagland, Windmill Harbor. The question for elected officials and those running for office, will you make a pledge today to stop all the illegal millions of tax funding to our chamber and all nonprofits, and agree to force all accounting, receipts, and invoices on every tax dollar of tax funds this council just hands to everybody, with no accounting and zero transparency? This continues to violate your fiduciary duties and campaign promises and oath of office to all Ireland taxpayers. Will you stop all the chamber DMO, state, federal law violations, and the IRS nonprofit tax evasion? Will you act? Does council agree to also enforce all our town employees, our lawyers' legal fees? Google Hilton Head overcharged legal fees. Read all about it. Town budgets, year-end audits, including tens of millions of hospitality and aid tax funds that have disappeared and unaccounted for. These must undergo an independent forensic audit hired by the council, not the employees. You're in charge, not them. They work for you. Why would any official allow this if proven that millions of our tax funds are missing? Council must stop our town manager, CPAs, and lawyers to control you and enforce transparency. Town council and Josh Gruber has been in violation of my chamber tax FOIA for 7 years. Mr. Perry, can you get a copy of this from Bill Miles in the chamber? Or will you file a town lawsuit to force this? Also, Mr. Perry, you said you saw this. Where is it? Why does this council keep allowing Bill Miles to say his use of tax funds are his secret sauce and none of your business? This is outrageous. I'm going to suggest that you hire the Quick Group audit firm from Charleston, made up of former FBI agents, to perform all these forensic audits. The only reason taxpayers elected you is to be honest, comply to your campaign promise, oath of office, fiduciary responsibilities, to approve, guard, and spend our money and protect our money like your own family's money. We have many problems and issues. I am just focused mainly on the largest illegal use issue of our millions of tax funds with zero accounting. We need a town council to stop this and put more financial controls in place on our town employees. I'm going to suggest something today. Called a FACT, a forensic audit committee made up of local CPA volunteers to assist this council. We have a volunteer ATAX committee, and we have many committees. Why not a FACT audit committee made up of CPAs from our residents? Set it up ASAP, and let's see where all this money's going to. Let these CPAs do it, because you're not CPAs. Not one of y'all are qualified to do a audit or even understand an audit. Neither am I. I'm just not being critical to you. I'm being critical to myself. I don't know enough about it either.
Thank you, Mr. Oka.
Lynn Greeley. Lynn Greeley.
I was going to speak for Lynn Ridley today, but I think I will pass on that today. I'll do it next time. We have more interesting things coming. Thank you.
Pamela Martin Evans. That's all I have. I don't see her.
Thanks.
That's all.
Like it didn't make on there.
No.
He left? Okay. All right. Thank you all. Now we'll move on to the second and final reading of the consideration of an ordinance amending section 10-5-50 of the municipal code of the town of Hilton Head Island to award a non-exclusive commercial beach franchise agreement. At our meeting on June 4th, Town Council voted unanimously to approve this ordinance on first reading. Mr. Gruber.
Good afternoon, Mayor, members of council. If you'll recall, at the last meeting during first reading, I believe we may have set a record for the longest motion in the history of a town council meeting that encompassed a variety of terms. Ultimately, all of those were incorporated into the document that's in your backup materials tonight. We've already begun discussions with representatives Shore Beach Services and town staff to look at what types of documents will we need in order to review financial records from that organization. So we're already headed in a positive direction, but wanted to let you know that everything that was discussed at the last meeting has been successfully incorporated in that document, and it's pending before you this evening for approval.
Okay. So with that being said, I'll open up for public comment. Anybody from the public? All right, seeing none. We have a motion?
Yes. I'll move to adopt an ordinance amending section 10-5-50 of the municipal code of the town of Hilton Head Island to award a non-exclusive commercial beach franchise agreement. This is second and final reading.
We have a second? Second. Mr. Alford, thank you. We have a first and second discussion by council.
I just have a question. I'm a little confused about what I think I'm on. The red light's on. I'm confused about the franchise fee. When I looked through the staff report, it had June 18, also had June 4. It had 3%, and another place it was 5.75%, and then another place was saying the staff had suggested a graduated fee. So can you tell me what fee we landed on?
Yep. So what was submitted in response to the RFP was a graduated fee. Based upon negotiations with staff, what was previously presented to council prior to adoption of first reading was a proposal for a 5 3/4% fee. But based upon discussions with Shore Beach Services and Town Council, ultimately the motion that was made coming out of that meeting was to set the franchise fee at 3%, which is in the agreement that's before you today.
Oh, that's what, thank you. That was why I was so confused. I'm like, I can't remember where we landed. Okay, thank you.
Other comments? All right, seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. So moved 7-0. Next, we will move on to the second and final reading, the consideration of an ordinance amending sections 2-5-15, public meetings and public hearings of town council and boards and commissions, 2-5-50, agenda and order of business, 2-5-70, appearance by citizens during public meetings, and 2-5-80, rules of decorum of the municipal code of the town of Hilton Head Island. At our meeting on June 4th, Town Council voted 5-1 to approve this first reading of this proposed ordinance.
Yes, sir. Again, based upon our discussions at the last town council meeting, there have been no amendments or revisions to the document at this time. We've also not received any public comment or additional feedback regarding this matter that I can bring for you this evening. However, if you do have any questions about the contents of it, I'm happy to review it again. But essentially, what we kind of covered at the last meeting is it changes our code in a couple of different ways. First, with regards to the order of items on the agenda. Second, with regards to the process by which people can make public comments. And then lastly, basically outlining the expected behavior of folks participating in public meetings and what we believe to be acceptable at that point in our process.
Okay, with that, I will open it up for public comment first. Public comment, yes, sir. Come on up.
This is in connection with the observation that I made in the handout, and that is that the South Carolina
Sorry.
Right here.
At any rate, a joke my mom told me a while back, I apologize. So what was I going to say? Last time we talked about, if this were adopted, the need for training of chairs of our boards and commissions. And you pointed out the standard operating guidelines for elected and appointed officials, which I think would be helpful. But I'm wondering if this is adopted tonight, what plans do we have for training for chairs of our boards and commissions?
So we've started having those conversations. Just to kind of give you an idea, one of the things we've talked about is putting up on the screen before the start of a meeting notice to the public about these new rules, making sure that we have an opportunity to educate and inform. There obviously needs to be a transition period to make sure that people understand these as we go forward before we, really kind of undertake any kind of strict enforcement of them. But this will allow us to communicate to the public about what our expectations are, and they are clearly set forth in that document. Additionally, when we have annual boards, commissions, and committee members training, this will become a part of that, and so that we can have an opportunity to review that standard operating procedure with them, make sure that they understand that progression in terms of response, and that these are not meant in any way, shape, or form to stifle or limit the public's ability to participate. It's just setting forth what our expectations are when you in fact do go to participate, and how we expect you to behave and go about providing those public comments. And so that will be incorporated as part of that annual training going forward, so that we capture all of the different entities that are going to be covered by this and the meetings that they may hold with the public.
It'd be good to do that. We're about to appoint some new folks to boards and commissions later tonight, so it'd be good to get that orientation ready, which would include this.
That's it. Typically, our big reappointment time's in June, so typically in July, August, depending upon scheduling, is when we'll have that really big orientation session.
Great, thank you.
Mr. David.
Thank you. The effective date of this, Josh, will this apply to the next council meeting?
It will be. It will become effective upon adoption, so if it's approved tonight, it will become effective as of the vote on that matter. But again, we need to make sure that the public's aware of it, and we need to start issuing this information so that they understand what has changed and also what has not changed.
I agree that that's very important. Thank you.
Other comments?
I have a follow-up question to your answer to Patsy. Where are those standards coming from? What is the resource that's being used?
So in the materials that were provided, we attached a sample standard operating procedure. Again, that's not being codified into town code. Here we go. It's this document right here, attachment 3. But it basically provides guidance to people who are going to oversee and lead public meetings on how they're supposed to apply these standards in terms of situations that may arise during the course of a public meeting.
And where does that guidance come from? Where's the resource from that guidance?
We've developed that, and we issue that internally as part of managing our boards, agencies, and commissions.
Again, I have a big problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Gruber, for those that are not as in tune to this discussion, for the record and for the public, could you please sort of reiterate that we are not disallowing folks to speak on agenda items or address the council or boards and commissions at their pleasure?
Absolutely. We want to restate that unequivocally. This is not an attempt to limit anybody's ability to speak. All we're doing is trying to make the meetings go efficiently. So depending upon the subject matter that you want to talk on, it may be more appropriate for you to speak when that item is actually pending before the body itself. Or if you want to speak on something that's unrelated to that particular meeting, but you still want to interact and comment with town council, you have that opportunity. We're just stating when it would be appropriate on the agenda to do that. And then again, as you're providing those public comments, we want to make sure it's clear what our expectations are with regards to your behavior and how you go about providing those comments. But in no way, shape, or form will this limit the ability of a member of the public to participate in any of our public meetings.
Thank you, sir.
May I follow up on that, please?
Yes.
Thank you. So it's the decorum, it's the behavior that this is primarily addressing. And where's the resource for judgment on that?
So again, we set forth various behaviors within the rules of decorum that we expect folks to follow. And the list is here, and I'm showing it on the screen now. So you're expected to not address the public body without first being recognized by the chair that it's appropriate for you to speak. So yelling and shouting from the audience, making comments, that would not be appropriate following these guidelines because that's outside of our rules of decorum. I don't want to necessarily go through all of these, but they're listed here in terms of what the behavior is and what our expectations are during public comment.
And the subjectiveness of,
Hang on one second. Skip, I think your hearing aid is reverberating.
Well, that thing went in, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. It's not easy, not even on the air, I'm telling you, it's terrible.
Thank you.
Okay.
so I think what I'm concerned about is the subjective nature of that and the equal application. I don't know how you find a resource that delineates that specifically enough so that, in fact, all citizens are treated the same. So again, these are my objections. These are my concerns. I think it's misguided.
Other comments? All right, seeing none, we'll take a vote. All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed? That'd be 6-1.
I want to comment on that.
We
I
could-
need to comment on that.
We already-
It's open to comment for agenda items, so please.
Mr.
let me have
Hogan,
my-
I called for public comment.
Huh?
I called for public comment
Okay,
earlier.
So
We'll let you speak for 3 minutes.
yes, thank you. I'll try not to even take 3 minutes. First of all, Judge Balk's ruled it's legal for me or anybody in this room to speak for 3 minutes for somebody else with a POA, power of attorney. It's an all-power dog. It's also totally legal for, if they're here, that they can assign their 3 minutes and ask somebody to speak for them. I'm going to read a couple of things from Beaufort County Sheriff. And the Beaufort County Sheriff to all mayors, he says, arrest public speakers and you'll get your butt sued off. Beaufort County Sheriff P.J. Tanner said he and his deputies will not remove people from meetings if public officials aren't happy with how they're behaving or what they're saying. And at the meeting of the 20 highest elected officials in Beaufort, Bluffton, and Hilton Head and Port Royal, Tanner smacked down an ordinance recently introduced by the county council to control speakers and said his deputies would no longer come to meetings on Hilton Head Island if the mayor tries to tell them what to say and how to say it. Wednesday's meeting comes as tensions escalate between speakers and elected officials. Any regulations on public comments must be compliant with state laws and not appear to threaten speakers' First Amendment rights, Tanner said. Any ordinance passed to curtail Hoagland's near constant attacks would apply to all public speakers. Tanner said he would refuse to enforce any local ordinances where a mayor is directing a deputy to arrest somebody or interrupt him or whatever without a clear violation of criminal statute. This is not something that can be enforced by the sheriff's office, he said. I could not allow council members to give any direction of any kind to my deputies, and that's why you don't see him here and you see Bob here. And he can't do anything. He has to sit there and listen to me like everybody else. When town of Bluffton attorney Terry Finger asked Tanner whether his deputies would enforce a requirement for a speaker to be a resident, Tanner replied, absolutely not. Being a citizen of Hilton Head, what would you do? Come with your citizen card or your electric bill? That's going to end up being another First Amendment issue. You're going to get your butt suit off. Tanner said the name no one wanted him to say, which might as well be called the Skip Hoagland Ordinance. Hoagland is the tail who has been wagging the dog. In the recent past, Tanner and his deputies have refused orders to remove Hoagland from meetings because Hoagland has not broken any laws. So, like the municipalities, the county appears to have written a law for me to break. But this is not about one person, they say. The rules of decorum, they say, aren't designed to make it harder for Hoagland, a frequent public commentator, to speak during public meetings. I could go on and on and on, but you can read all this online. These articles are all available, as the articles of the outrageously outcharged legal fees by Gruber and Coltrane in the past, Alfred. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Since I allowed him, I will allow others as well.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My name is Chester Williams. I wasn't going to say anything, but since the door's been opened now, and your attorney, Mr. Coltrane, can correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding of constitutional law is that you can't regulate what someone says, but you can regulate the time, place, and manner of that speech. And I think what you're doing here is exactly that. I think it's constitutional. I think the courts will uphold it. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Just a question, actually. Why are we doing this?
We are cleaning up an old ordinance is what we're doing.
So you're not trying to correct or punish somebody who in the past has misbehaved?
This is not about one individual. It's about having an ordinance in place that is enforceable.
So it's a simple administrative matter?
Pardon?
It's a simple administrative correction?
Yes.
That's all it is?
Yes.
Okay. Well,
I would allow, Mr. Gruber can address that when he comes back up to the podium.
Would you please? Because I've understood very clearly what Josh has said, and it's very clear, and reading what you're proposing is very clear, and just having a great deal of difficulty understanding why it's necessary. So if Josh could, it'd be much appreciated. Thank you.
Absolutely. Anybody else like to make a comment? You've already made one, I believe, didn't you?
Yes,
Yeah.
but it was in response to...
And we're not going to give there, Mr. Davidson. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
All right, Josh, if you'll come back up.
Yes, sir. Let me take another opportunity just to quickly highlight the revisions that are under discussion for today. So the first set is essentially revising the order of town council's agenda. And the primary purpose behind that is to identify that public comments on items that are on an agenda for that meeting would be taken up as that item is being discussed with council, and that if a member of the public wants to talk about items that are not on the agenda that evening, they can do that, but it will be taken up after the matters before the body have been already discussed, but before before recessing into executive session. So again, same opportunities, it's just making sure that we efficiently go through the order of business of council and take up public comment at the appropriate times. In addition to that, we're also making some administrative changes with regards to our code. The mayor mentioned it's outdated. To give you an example, it says that we'll meet at 3 o'clock and we will adjourn at 8 o'clock, which everybody knows based upon yesterday is not accurate. So again, a lot of this is looking to clean up old matters of the code, but we are going to hopefully then be able to efficiently have meetings. And then when it comes to providing public comment, our goal is to set forth to the public very clearly what our expectations are about what people are talking about and when it's appropriate to do so and how it's appropriate to do so. And so that is the content of what you have before you this evening.
Okay, thank you. Well, we've already voted on it. So we'll move on to the next new business. We have Mr. Gruber again presenting consideration of an ordinance of the town of Hilton Head Island authorizing the execution and delivery of quitclaim deeds for a portion of property owned by the town of Hilton Head Island identified as 55. Mr. Gruber.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I believe it's important to kind of go through kind of a chronological sequence of how this matter is pending before town council. So a number of years ago, the town purchased a piece of property adjacent to 54 Muddy Creek Road. The history of that property is that several years prior to that time, it had been sold at a tax sale. It had been purchased by another individual, and then the town subsequently purchased the property from that individual. A number of years following that purchase, a sewer lift station was installed at the very southern end of the property and currently exists today and provides those public utilities. A number of years ago, the family who owns the property at 54 Muddy Creek Road reached out concerned about the fact that the property had initially been lost at tax sale, and was also then further concerned that the property records reflected that the town had ownership of that parcel. In talking with the town attorney and in talking with the family members, what we'd proposed was a series of actions that would accomplish two things. One, it would allow the town to retain the portion of property that's being used for public infrastructure purposes, but it would allow us to have a better quality of title on the property than what we currently have now by accepting a quitclaim deed. Similarly, that portion of the property that we are not utilizing, we would be returning back to the family via giving them a quitclaim deed to that portion of the property. Lastly, in the middle of those two sections, there is a stormwater ditch. And our stormwater folks have indicated that it is necessary to acquire an easement so that they can maintain that ditch as it's part of an overall larger system that flows in through and through that area. Through our discussions with the family, we obtained an appraisal of the property and then entered into negotiations with the family to purchase the drainage easement on that parcel. And as identified in the materials before you this evening, the purchase price is being proposed and supported by staff at a cost of $35,000. So what you're approving tonight essentially allows the town to accept a quitclaim deed from the family, to give a quitclaim deed to the family, and to purchase a stormwater easement on that parcel. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions that council may have.
First of all, I'll go with public comment. Yes, sir.
This goes directly to my comment.
Come up to the dais, or to the podium, please.
I happen to be a taxpayer and a real estate litigation lawyer. I'm missing one. Who's responsible for our title to begin with, and why are we paying for their mistake? Two, as a taxpayer, how is the value of my real property improved by this transaction? Now, I understand that the property owners, the value of their property will be improved, and we're paying them $35,000 and they're having more land. So this is a one-way transaction, and I have not heard a single discussion of why it's meritorious, why it said, well, they had a question, but there was no discussion of the actual merits of that. There was no discussion of what's the benchmark for $35,000. And it may be a good transaction. I have no idea. I'm only trying to illustrate that because we do not act by that guiding star, we run into these problems. And I don't want to come back here and ask this question every time. I'm just trying to break a bad habit. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I got a comment.
Let's vote.
I don't know how it relates to this particular project, but I think all projects, every project, especially the ones in the past that I have been very, very against, and speak of that again, sorry. You're in charge of that, thanks. So, that we can't use public monies, I know it's crazy. You can't use public monies for private purposes, period. You can't do it. Public funds can only be used for the public good and not for the private use. It's got to be for the public good, reason, and benefit of the entire public. So I don't know how it relates to this, but it's just like if it's like the dredging of Harbortown, which that lawsuit has not been decided yet that we filed with a group. That's $600,000 to dredge Harbortown. We use tax monies for that. That should have been done by the HOA and the POA and the property owners, not the taxpayers, because we don't have access to that private gate. We're not here to benefit the yacht owners and the fat cats, okay? We're here to use public monies for the public good. And so everything that you do, you've got to look at that and make sure you understand that that was decided by the Supreme Court, and that's law.
Thank you. Other comments? Seeing none, we have a motion.
Yes.
I move to adopt an ordinance.
The Town of Hilton Head Island authorizing the execution and delivery of a quitclaim deeds for the portion of property owned by the Town of Hilton Head Island identified as 54 Muddy Creek Road and the purchase of stormwater easement for the same. This is a first reading.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Mr. Stanford. Discussion by council. Ms. Bryson.
I'm sorry, I was an old editor. I can't help this. In section 1, there's typos, and in subsection A, B, and C, it should say are hereby authorized instead of REA. Sorry, that's all I got.
Okay. Any other comments? Mr. Stanford. Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
Back to you.
Thank you. Josh, we don't have good title to the property now, is that correct?
That is my understanding.
Marketable title is what I'm referring
And my
to.
understanding is that we purchased it at somewhat of a discount price at the time that it was acquired. I believe the purchase price was $35,000.
Some years ago.
Yes, sir.
And receiving the quitclaim deed from the adjacent property owner, a quitclaim deed does not convey marketable title either.
It is not marketable title, but it is better title than what we currently possess, and that is one less claim that could be made against our current title.
All right, and the public benefit to this is that we're able to maintain the sewer lift station, and we will also be gaining an easement for stormwater purposes.
Correct. An easement which would be publicly owned and public infrastructure.
Yes, thank you.
Ms. Becker.
That answered actually several of my questions. The last one was if you can just go through how the $35,000 purchase was determined.
The original purchase or the current proposed? The current proposed, we had an appraisal performed on the property. The value that came back as a result of that appraisal was $27,904. Based upon negotiations directly with the family members, they proposed a purchase price of $35,000. Given the delta between the two, staff believed that that was reasonable in terms of reflecting fair market value for the property and therefore supportive of this request.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments and questions? All right, seeing none, we've got a motion by Mr. Ames, second by Mr. Stanford. All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. All opposed?
No, I'll go ahead with voting to approve it, but I am concerned about receiving an appraisal and then paying over appraisal for properties. I'm also concerned, as long as I'm making notes, I'm also concerned about the fact that this isn't the first time we've come across an instance where we don't have a proper title. And I don't know what the mechanism is, but I think someone should be going through our files. Thanks.
Motion passes 7-0. Lastly, we have Sean Colin presenting the consideration of a resolution to accept the Hilton Head Island Conditions and Trends Assessment. Mr. Sean.
Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon. Mayor, Council, Town Manager, Sean Colin, Assistant Town Manager. I have a really brief presentation I can go through. It's only a few slides. Conditions and Trends Assessment was a...
Mr. Colin, that was too soon.
Pardon
me.
Continue.
Conditions and Trends Assessment was a direct direction from Town Council as part of the strategic plan adopted. One of the 15 priority recommendations was a growth management framework. The Conditions and Trends went to the Public Planning Committee 3 times, most recently on May 9th, where the report was updated to respond to public input and committee feedback, and was approved unanimously 4-0 to bring it forward to council. The Conditions and Trends is meant to serve a few purposes. One, it's to set a benchmark so that we have a baseline of data on community data points, benchmarks, and indicators for Hilton Head. To identify major trends, and it's to clearly communicate common information as it relates to these trends and conditions to the community. The CTA was organized around 10 topic clusters, and you can see them listed here below. This is similar to how a town's comprehensive plan is set up
utilizing elements, but demographics, workforce, economic, real estate, on and on. You see them up there. And what the key point for this report will do are two things. One, it's meant to be a living document with data updated regularly. And we're communicating with our GIS team. We believe we can update this at a quarterly interval so that it is a living document. And then putting the information to use really has three key focus areas for as far as utilization of the CTA. And it's to provide a common starting point. You can see here it adds context to community discussions around emerging trends and issues. It connects information, single point data source as much as possible so that everyone has the same information to work from. It will inform future studies and plans with readily available updated information. And again, while this is the baseline, we'd like to update this information quarterly using internal resources. And then to measure progress. In order to track whether or not we're making positive momentum on policy, operation, or program initiatives, we need to have a baseline to be able to measure against. And so this is an opportunity to set that baseline with this report and data, and then measure as we move forward to see if we're trending in the right direction. I'm available to answer any questions. I do want to thank the community development team that worked hard to develop this information, and we'll continue to work hard making it a living document for the community benefit.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and open up for public comment. Yes, sir.
Let's start with stopping the corridor bridge project. That'd be a good place to start.
Thank you. Other comments? Yes, sir.
Christopher Cliff. I'd just like to say that I've spent a long time reading the document, and I think I'd like to compliment Sean and his whole team. It's fantastic source information, and I'd recommend reading it to every person that has an interest in the development of the island. It's a fabulous document, a couple of inconsistencies, all minor stuff. Well done, Sean, and well done to Missy. Great, thank you.
Thank you. Other comments? Mr. Davis, I'm gonna learn your name by the time this day's over.
I want to end on a compliment. This is what the city needs to be doing. What governments do is take information, acquire information that other people do not have, and apply it. Therefore, the better data you have of your demographics, for example, we have 3 million visitors a year. What's their capacity to pay user fees and other things to offset the costs that they come here? The greater our ability to drill down in data of what our demographics and what is going on the island, the better decisions you will make. So I'm extremely complimentary of the effort.
Thank you. Any other comments? Seeing none, we have a motion.
Yes, we do, Mayor. I move to adopt an ordinance of the town of Hilton Head Island authorizing the execution and delivery. I beg your pardon. I move to approve a resolution to accept the Hilton Head Island Conditions and Trends Assessment.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Mr. Alford. We have a first and second discussion by council. Ms. Becker.
So yes, it's a great document, and there's, I mostly appreciate the changes that took place from the first time it was presented. I reviewed it again over the weekend, and I still have one sticking point that I'm going to hold, that holds some concern for me. It's within the land use piece of it. And the data there is very good, right? All that information is great for us to have. What concerns me is the application for land use in the future. And that bothers me because the way I read it, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, it does lay the foundation to be able to open that document and identify where there's available land and to make decisions about development, all sorts of development. And that's a problem for me. When public land, when town land was purchased, there was a promise to the citizens of the island of what that land was going to be used for, how it would be held. And that would be in perpetuity, as I understand. And this opens the door to take parts of that property and to use them in different ways as the needs might suggest that we should. And I don't agree that at any point we should be breaking that promise with the citizens who came before us. That integrity is too important to me. When I make a promise to someone, I keep it.
Sean, you have a response to that?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. The only response I have is the information that's included in the conditions and trends report that mirrors the information that's on the town property dashboard. There was an assessment that was completed and presented to council about a year and a half ago, I think January of 2023, that inventoried all town-owned property, including the restrictions based on funding source, and there were some properties that could be potentially used based on the funding source that had development or utilized funding sources that didn't have restrictions. So that information just carries through and is consistent with what we've presented previously.
Sean, is that clear in the document?
I believe so, sir. And any utilization of town-owned property requires town council consent or agreement.
I was around when the town was buying all that property through referenda, and I don't think there is any intention, or is there the capability to go against the deeds of those properties?
Just curious, because, some of the properties were acquired for the purpose of future economic development, whether it be for medical or something else. Are those properties identified, or is that not identified?
They're identified in the town dashboard.
Right.
Not specifically in this condition and trends, just to be clear.
Okay. Other comments? Yes, Mr. Brown.
John, thank you to you and your staff for putting this together. Can you dive into the tapestry a little bit for me? I'm not a member of the Public Planning Committee, so I didn't have the chance to sort of dive in a little bit, but there are ages assigned to some of the groups, but then the second largest group is sort of described as a other, but there's no age attached to that. Is there a reason for that?
I can dive into it a little bit here if you give me a minute.
Okay.
You remember the page it was on, do you?
It is page 78, sir.
No, we're talking at the back, not demographics.
Sean, can I pull it up on here, Jim? On the screen? Indeed.
Page 78.
Yeah, it's in the full report, in the bottom one. So at the bottom of I'm sorry, we'll pull it up here. At the bottom of that page, there are categories, and the other, we're talking about the graphic at the bottom.
Yes.
It talks about, I don't know, sort of segmentation of that tapestry. And when you look at, this is a really, sorry, let me get my bearing here. When you look at silver and gold communities, there's some descriptors below that define sort of help define what that term would be. So you can see for silver and gold, there's median age of 63.2. There's income, net worth, and household size that sort of meet the criteria for that definition. Emerald City, you can see, it's a younger community, a little less income and overall worth. And then when you get into the other, it's those that don't fit into those young professional, more tradition, and Emerald City, more traditional communities. And then silver and gold are typically, they have a mix but are primarily older populations, whereas other tapestries have a much more robust composition of the different demographics that make up that qualified as that title.
Okay, so I appreciate that this is a living and breathing document. And I appreciate that we are going to attempt the goal of quarterly reviewing this and measuring, okay? Our plan speaks to us being a very inclusive community. This document sort of recognizes the trends of us having a growing, diverse community in some cases, like the Latino population, and a decreasing population in others, like the African American population. When you start to look at the age demographic, it's clear the trend is going up. I think the mayor and I agree that we want to try to pull it down. No offense there, but there's an old saying in the churches that if there ain't no babies crying in the church, then you got to die in church. I think the same is for our town. So I guess my ultimate statement here is that if we are going to truly evaluate our policy effectiveness using this document, then it somehow has to tie back to our strategic plan, okay, as we evaluate our priorities on a year-to-year basis, because we have to be very intentional if we want to preserve any piece of our fabric and makeup here, okay? And the components, land uses and all that other stuff all play into the outcome. But if we're not recognizing where we are and if we are improving or not, then I think it's all in vain. So I appreciate the document, but I want to really understand moving forward how we're going to use it as we go through our strategic planning process.
Thank you. Mr. Alfred.
I just want to say this is, to me, an extremely important document to have, not only for government officials, elected or otherwise, but also for anybody who's interested in understanding the town. There are many, many municipalities around this country that would like to have a document like this. What it does for us, I think, is give us an opportunity to make decisions based much more on realistic trends and facts rather than my assumption as to how things are going or somebody else's assumption as to how things are going. So I'm very appreciative of your having prepared this.
Any other comments? Well, I will tell you, I do not fit into the Emerald City or the bright young professionals, so figure out the rest of it.
But that segment is the fastest growing segment.
Okay. So if there's no other comments, we'll take a vote. We've got a motion by Mr. Ames, second by Mr. Alfred. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Opposed? It is 6-1. Mr. Orlando, do we have a need to go into executive session today?
Yes, sir. Mayor, as shown in the agenda, items 11A and 11B.
Do you have a motion?
Yes, so I move we
Go into executive session for the reasons cited by the town manager.
Have a second?
Second.
Got a first and second. All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. So moved, 7-0. We're in executive session. Out of executive session?
So moved.
We have a second?
Second.
We have a first and second. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. We are out of executive session. Mr. Ames, any activity?
Yes, we have several items to report. The first regards appointments to commissions and bodies. I would like to make a motion to approve the following appointments to the Parks Recreation Commission. There are 2 vacancies and 1 appointment. Ray Kasaya as a new member, Christina Kristen, a reappointment, and Ruthie Kucharewski. I had that before. All to serve a term ending in June 30th, 2027.
We've got a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Back for a second. Any discussion from council? Well, actually, a discussion from the public. There's none. So we've got first and second. All those in favor, if there's no discussion, please signify by raising your right hand. So moved, 7-0.
I have a second motion to approve the following appointments to the Planning Commission. There's 1 vacancy and 4 reappointments. Ed Cordes as a new member, Tom Hens a reappointment, Ellen Whaley a reappointment, Chuck Lobaugh a reappointment, and Bruce Siebel a reappointment to serve a term ending in June 30th, 2027.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Ms. Becker, thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. So moved, 7-0.
I have an additional motion to approve the following appointments to the Design Review Board. There are 3 vacancies and 1 reappointment. Megan Fitzpatrick, a new member. Kevin Brandenburg, a new member. Patricia Pastor, a new member. And Thomas Parker, reappointment. They all will serve until June 30th, 2027.
Can I have a second? Ms. Becker?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, signify by raising your right hand. So moved.
I have a motion to approve the following appointment to the Gullah Geechee Historic Neighborhoods Community Development Corporation. It's 1 reappointment, and that is Pastor Lewis Johnson. He will serve until June 30th, 2027.
Second, yes.
Thank you, Ms. Becker. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by raising your right hand. So moved, 7-0.
I have a motion to approve the following appointments to the Accommodations Tax Advisory Committee. There are 2 vacancies and 1 reappointment. Thomas Dowling is a new member. Adrian Rader is a new member, and John Farrell is a reappointment. They'll serve a term ending in June 30th, 2027.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Becker. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by raising your right hand. So moved, 7-0.
And I think, yes, the final motion to approve the following appointments to the Board of Zoning Appeals. There's 1 vacancy and 2 reappointments. David Figuerhut is a reappointment. Carol McVitie is a new member, and Michael Sackheim is a reappointment, all to serve until June 30th, 2027.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Becker. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by raising your right hand. So moved, 7-0.
I have a additional motion for council. I move for council to approve a resolution to approve the development agreement for the workforce housing between the town of Hilton Head Island and 1 Street Residential.
We have a second?
Second.
Ms. Bryson, thank you. Any discussion from the public? Seeing none, any discussion from council? All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Actually, well.
Are we going to have a brief?
Yeah, hang on 1 second. Lower your hands. Mr. Orlando.
Yes, I would like to call upon Ben Brown, since he's on that side of the lectern, to pull up and go over the particulars and the framework of our North Point Public-Private Partnership Development Agreement. Ben, great job along the way with this.
Thank you. Thank you, Town Manager, Mayor, members of council. It is my absolute pleasure to present to you the framework for the North Point Public-Private Partnership Workforce Housing Development Agreement. I'll quickly go through the project scope as well as the responsibilities of the town and of our development partner, 1 Street Residential. But as we've been talking about for the last 2 years, the project scope includes 11 acres of town-owned land located close to the Hilton Head Schools, the Island Rec Center, the Boys and Girls Club, And we are envisioning an energy efficient, sustainable neighborhood with high quality architecture and construction. We're envisioning 150 to 170 rental units consisting of 1, 2, and 3-bedroom apartments, amenities and programming that prioritize the well-being and quality of life of residents, on-site property management, a community building with high-speed internet, a pool, outdoor communal spaces with grilling, pavilions, seating and playground, walking trails, indoor and outdoor fitness stations, and a community garden, laundry appliances in each individual units, and a lot more that I look forward to talking with you about over the next 6 months. Workforce affordability. North Point will target our essential workforce, such as teachers, first responders, healthcare providers, hospitality workers, and many others. It's 60 to 150% of our area median income, which is essentially a caregiver's salary up to a nurse's salary, with at least 50% of the units serving households that earn less than 80% of the AMI. So it's a true mixed income community. And we'll have affordability covenants on the property. The development agreement includes a 65-year ground lease, but the affordability covenants will ensure that the property maintains as a workforce neighborhood in perpetuity.
And one quick thing, that's 100% of these units will fit workforce, correct? It's not a
100
percentage of the entire development, it is 100%.
100% of the units will be maintained for workforce housing forever. Yes. And it's designed for folks who are working or will work on Hilton Head Island. The town's role, the town manager and town council over 2 years ago presented the project vision. And the vision included 11 acres of land that the town would contribute to a public-private partnership. The development agreement includes a 65-year ground lease, and the town will contribute $1 million in a grant with contributions secured from the American Rescue Plan Act. This was COVID stimulus money. The town will be actively involved in the zoning entitlements as well as long-term programming support. We will know North Point is successful not just when folks are living at North Point, but we'll know North Point is successful based on the programs and the quality of life they have living in this community. One Street Residential's role. Our development partner is responsible for financing, they're responsible for design and permitting, they're responsible for project management, construction, lease-up, long-term programming, as well as property management. And the North Point Public-Private Partnership Housing Advisory Committee has thoroughly vetted this proposal as well as the development agreement and recommends approval. And through the vetting process, I had the opportunity to join the advisory committee, the North Point Advisory Committee, on a trip to Atlanta. And we visited communities that were developed and managed by North Point, by One Street. And we were very impressed with the quality of construction as well as their property management and as well as the culture of their company. The last slide here is next steps. Now that the Workforce Housing Development Agreement is approved, the first step is the due diligence, the planning, and the preliminary models. This is anticipated to take about 6 months. The development agreement has 180 days for phase 1, and this allows our development partner to secure the soft commitments for financing, to prepare all of the elevation plans, the site plan, etc. It also allows the town manager and staff to prepare a rezoning application for the property. And then we move into pre-development. Pre-development is anticipated to start in early 2025. This is also anticipated to be a 6-month process. And what this means is that our target schedule, which is included in the Workforce Housing Development Agreement, could have construction starting as soon as the summer of 2025. And we anticipate this as being about an 18-month build. And we would anticipate units being available for lease as soon as 15 months after the commencement of construction. So it is our hope that we would have units available for lease by the end of 2026. Are there any questions regarding the target schedule?
Great job.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good, well done. Well done to all involved.
Just going to say, Mayor, this is an exciting day. I've been waiting for this a long time. And the $1 million, as you pointed out, is from ARPA funds, accrued part of our housing fund, and it does not include property taxes collected through millage. So this is truly non-taxpayer, non-local taxpayer money. And then secondly, the 100% of the units are going to be in that workforce category, as opposed to a 5 or 10 or 20% of the units. So it's an exciting day. I'm looking forward to it, and more information to come.
Congratulations, Ben. Just wanted to say to you and all who were involved in putting this together that you did a great job. I think it's going to be a great project.
Truly a team effort.
All right, let's take the vote. All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed? 6-1. We have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
We are adjourned.